and welcome back to my channel, or welcome to my channel if you are new. My name is Lucy, this is
Calum.
And we are currently backpacking Southeast Asia. We are about 2.5 months into our trip, probably by the time this goes up nearer to 3 months, if not over 3 months, because everything seems to be going up really delayed at the moment. As we film this, we are currently in Cambodia. We are nearing the end of our 1 month stay here in Cambodia, but so far we have been to the north of Thailand, Laos, Vietnam, and now Cambodia. We just sort of thought that we'd sit down and film a video about our last couple of months traveling and just summarize random points that I wish I'd known before we came out traveling. I hope that this can just help some people if you're planning on coming out here in the future, or if you're already out here and you just thought, actually, I didn't even notice that. I'm also just going to cover briefly packing notes. I've only made a few, but things that I am really glad I've brought out here, things I wish I had more of, and also some things that I wish I'd left behind. But without further ado, I'm going to jump right into it. This is my general notes section of the video. General note number 1, SIM cards. This is one thing that we were really unsure of before we came out here. We really didn't know how to go about getting a SIM card, where to find them, how they work. A lot of people had told me before coming out here, like, oh, don't worry about it, just get them when you're here. But obviously before you come, you're thinking, I don't know if that's going to work. What if it's not that easy? But it really is that easy in most places anyway. When we arrived in Bangkok, when we started our travels, we did go to a little stall in the airport. There was actually quite a few, to be honest, that were selling SIM cards, and I had been told not to get one from there because they are well overpriced for what you can pay elsewhere. I don't remember the exact price of what they were trying to sell us a 30-day SIM for, but I remember thinking it was quite expensive compared to what I thought it was going to be. We went and found a SIM card in the MBK Mall in Thailand. If you are ever in Bangkok, I'm sure you know about this mall. There's basically a whole floor on the top of the mall which is dedicated to phone shops, SIM cards, everything electrical. So it was really, really handy to go in there and find a SIM. It was super easy. Another thing that people were saying though is that it's really easy to get one in 7-Eleven. 7-Eleven is everywhere in Thailand, and I mean literally walk 5 steps, you've got another shop, and apparently you can go in there and get one as well. If you just ask at the counter 30-day SIM card or 2-week SIM card or 7-day SIM card, they have them available for you. I don't remember exactly what we paid for our SIM card. I think it was near enough about £7 for unlimited data for a month, I believe, and that's kind of the ballpark figure for what we've been paying in every country. In Laos, we got handed our SIM card pretty much on a golden platter, because when we were on our way to the slow boat, they dropped us off at this little street stall on the side of the road that was selling them, and we just decided for convenience we're gonna get one there. I think again roughly about £7 or £8 for a 2-week SIM, wasn't it? It was actually less than a month, so that was quite expensive for a 2-week SIM. And then when we got to Vietnam, we got one at our hostel. Again, super easy. We just literally walked into our hostel and asked her, have you got SIM cards? And she sold us one for about the same price for a 30-day unlimited.
There are some countries where it's a bit more difficult. So for us, Laos, obviously we had the convenience of getting it because we had the tour with the slow boat. But if you are just flying in, sometimes it can be a bit harder because there's not 7-Elevens, there's no huge shopping malls where you can get them. But maybe sometimes it's a chance of just biting the bullet and getting it where you first see it, whether it's, you know, crazy expensive or a little bit less, or an eSIM is always an alternative.
We also had a little bit of struggle finding one when we got into Cambodia. We tried to find one in Kampot, which was our first stop in Cambodia. I'm sure if you're coming straight in and coming to Phnom Penh or Siem Reap or one of the bigger cities, it would be no problem at all for you to find one. Again, we eventually found one after looking for a little while, and it was around £8, or was it like $10? $10, so about £8 for a 30-day unlimited SIM as well. So yeah, not too bad, but some places are easier to find than others.
And point number 2, when you're in Thailand or really anywhere with a 7-Eleven, the best bet if you want a really cheap lunch is just going there and having a cheese and ham toasty. It sounds silly, but it's only 67p, and they toast it there for you, and it's actually pretty good, to be fair, for what you get. There are some other places with 7-Elevens, like I think there's some in Vietnam and there have been some in Cambodia, but they are a bit more expensive, but it's still a pretty cheap lunch.
If you have watched any of our Thailand vlogs, specifically the Bangkok vlog when we arrived here in Southeast Asia, you would have seen that we did utilize those 7-Eleven toasties quite a lot for our first few days in Bangkok. Honestly, they are elite. Like, hands down, every traveler knows 7-Eleven toasties is the way forward. Number 3, tuk-tuks. Tuk-tuks, when you get into Bangkok, are a novelty. You get in the tuk-tuk, you pay a little bit more for the experience of being in a tuk-tuk. I would absolutely say go for it, have that experience, but in Bangkok and in North Thailand specifically, we found that the best and the cheapest mode of transport to get around was just Grab. Grab is essentially the Asian version of Uber, and it's really, really cheap to get around. around. You can get a car to pick you up within literally minutes and take you anywhere you need to go. Grab is available in a lot of Asia. I don't think Grab was available in Laos, but when we've come back into Cambodia, we've realized Grab is available for most parts of Cambodia here. Another great option if you're looking for cheaper transport is downloading the app InDrive. I think it's in.drive when you download it. And basically this is an app where you can put in your destination, a driver will come back to you with a price, and then you can basically barter with the driver on the price of the journey. Another one very similar to Grab is Pass. I believe they only use this in the south of Vietnam and also in Cambodia. It's pretty much exactly the same as Grab. You put in your location, you get a price, super cheap. The mode of transport here with the Pass app is normally rickshaws and tuk-tuks, so it's a little bit more fun than just getting in any old car.
It's also quicker than cars because the traffic here is chaos, and if you have a good tuk-tuk driver, they know the right streets and they know the right paths around cars and all the traffic, so it's the best convenience.
When we were in Vietnam, another note is when we were getting Grab, we were using a lot of Grab bikes. If you're a solo traveler or you're in a couple, you can get one bike or two people on one bike or two different bikes, and often the Grab bikes are much cheaper than getting in a car, and also they're much quicker because, as Calum just said, they avoid the traffic. The traffic here is mental, so you've got to make sure that you trust your driver when you get on the back of the bike. In some places such as Laos, we've noticed that there's basically no form of social media transport such as Grab or Pass. Everything is just done by just classic tuk-tuks in Laos. And another thing we've noticed in Laos is they charge per person rather than the journey, so it is quite inconvenient if you're traveling with a group and you want to just split the cost of the tuk-tuk, because a lot of drivers will charge per person. So if you're coming out to Southeast Asia, definitely have those apps downloaded on your phone because they are going to be a godsend to save you the money from the tuk-tuks. There is another one in Vietnam called Gojek, which is pretty much the same as Grab and Pass, but if you've got one of them on your phone, you don't need to have all of them really.
Tip number 4 is don't be afraid to barter or bargain with anyone and everyone really. Most of the time, if you're at a street market or even if you're in a shopping mall where they have the markets inside, you can always bargain with them because they will always push the price up and they don't find it rude. It's just how their culture is. And I read somewhere that a lot of the time, if you're in a market and you're shopping for, you know, items or something like this, they tend to pretty much double the price, so you can kind of have a base as half the price, and you're always going to find a middle ground because at the end of the day they want to sell it and if you want to buy it, but just make sure that you're not showing too much interest in what you want to buy because then they know that they got you already.
As long as you're polite. If you're going to be rude to them, they're most likely going to say no and they're just going to turn you away. But always be polite, do it with a smile on your face, and if you are confident as well, be a little bit cheeky with them, do a little funny little flirt with them. And these ladies, honestly, when Calum speaks to them on the market stalls, he literally has to wink at them and then they come down in price. So yeah, always try your best to bargain. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work, but it's always worth a try out here. This one is a pretty specific one, but I'm going to just generally talk about the food in Laos. Not so much what you're eating, but how you're eating it, if that makes sense. We basically had so many situations in Laos where you order your food in a restaurant, someone would take the order, 9 times out of 10 it's children because it's normally family run restaurants, and then you're waiting 1 hour, 2 hours for your food to come out, and 9 times out of 10 they've got your order wrong or they've forgotten your order and then you have to take it again an hour later. I would just say go into Laos with an open mind of this. If you're too hungry, don't go to a restaurant because you're going to be waiting ages for your food. And I wish I could say this was a specific example, but this did happen to us a lot in Laos when we were with a big group and when we were eating on our own as well.
So another thing on a note of food, when it comes to snacks, you have the restaurants and stuff where you want to go for your meals, but it's so easy to just go somewhere and get some snacks at home, but it's not like that here. You can go to 7-Eleven when you're in Thailand, or you can go to those stores, you can get crisps, you can get sweets. There's not really much chocolate. You might find the odd Kit Kat, that's about it. And then in countries like Laos, for instance, there's no supermarkets. It's all just people who have bought the stock in and are pretty much selling it outside their house.
It's like a stall on the side of the road.
Or they have a tiny shop with, you know, different shelves. But if you are looking for snacks, you might have a hard time finding them.
I wish so much that we could just cuddle up in bed with a big bar of chocolate, but if you do find them out here, they're mega expensive and it's not worth your money. Also, you can find so many crisps, but crisps are just weird flavors out here, and when you've had too many original Lays in a row, you are getting sick of them. A big and very important point as well around Asia, specifically in Vietnam, is that the traffic is absolutely mental. Anyone who's been to Vietnam or Asia will probably already know this one, and you've probably heard people say about it. You've just got to make sure when you're crossing the road, you're very, very careful. Keep an eye in the back of your head at all times. And also, if you are getting on any motorbikes, whether you're driving them or being on the back of them, there's pretty much hardly any road rules. Of course, I'm sure legally there is, but in terms of the actual roads, people are cutting in front of each other, there's beeping, people are driving on the wrong side of the road, people cut through the red lights. There's literally like no rules, it seems, on the roads. But if you are crossing the road, really make sure you've got your head screwed on and you're really looking out, because even though it might say green to go, there could be a car coming and whizzing through the red light. So just be really careful at all times. Specifically Vietnam, but also Phnom Penh has been pretty crazy too. So everywhere, just be very careful with traffic.
When it comes to everywhere, pretty much, there's not really many bins at all. In some capital cities, you see some recycling bins and that's about it. But most of the time, we found ourselves in situations where we're walking somewhere, we have a bottle of water, we have crisps or whatever, and there's literally no bins anywhere. This is why as well, when you're walking around, you literally see litter covering the streets, and it's just because they're not really that educated in terms of pollution out here, and they're just burning plastic on the side of the road. Yeah, just make sure you have a bag on you for your rubbish, or just put it in your pocket if it fits, and then wait until, you know, you're back at your hostel or hotel room and there's a bin.
This is actually something that I'm very big on at home, but also out here it's really important to always have tissues with you. A lot of the toilets out here don't use toilet roll, because anyone who didn't know, in a short story, basically the pipes here are too small for things to flush through, like toilet roll, tissue, and stuff like that. So you have to basically wipe and put your tissue in a bin, which is why they don't actually give you tissues in a lot of toilets. So make sure you've got toilet roll with you, because you are gonna need it if you're on public transport or you're stopping on the side of the road on a long journey or something like that. You're gonna want it. They do have bum guns, but obviously you don't want to walk out of the toilet dripping wet, so it's always good to have some form of tissue on you just to dry yourself off.
Another tip is footwear. Kind of want to make sure you have some sort of sandals or sliders just with you at all times, or just wearing them at all times, because if you're going into temples, you can easily slide them off. Going onto transport like buses, you have to take them off when you're going into your seats, and it's just so much more convenient than if you were to have tie-up shoes, for instance, and you just got to untie them and tie them every single time. And also, when it's this hot, you don't really want actual trainers. I have two pairs of trainers with me, and I've probably only worn them to reduce space in my bag. I have sandals at the minute, and I've probably worn them pretty much 24/7. They're so convenient, so I'll definitely say get some sandals.
This is a big one for anyone coming to Vietnam. TP Bank in Vietnam is the only bank that we have found that you can get cash out with a 0% withdrawal fee. So you're not paying any extra fees to get cash out. I don't know if this applies to every bank and everyone around the world, but definitely for people in the UK, use TP Bank, which is the purple one, and you can get cash out with no withdrawal fees. It's literally perfect.
Another thing with getting out money is obviously hidden fees. When you're getting money out, there's always going to be a transaction fee. In Vietnam, like Lucy said, that was the only one we found so far with 0%. In Cambodia so far, it's charged about $5, so maybe about £4, £4.50. And in Thailand, it really wasn't that high. It might have been about
a couple of pounds here.
Yeah, it really wasn't too much. Another note as well with currency is in Cambodia, they use Cambodian riel and US dollar. And it's about 4,000 Cambodian riel to $1 US. So you kind of work out from that, but sometimes if you're paying for a big amount in US dollars, they might give you a $1 note back, some Cambodian riel. So it can take a little while to pick up, but so far this is the only country that we know of that uses double currency.
Yeah.
So a tip for transport is obviously mopeds. They're everywhere, there's so many of them, and they are so convenient. And you might be thinking, oh, will I ride one when you come here? You probably will. They're so cheap and it's so convenient. You do need an international license, which if you're in England, it is actually really easy to get. You go to the post office, you can apply for one, and it's pretty simple. However, unless you don't have a motorbike license, you won't be able to get the motorbike license on your international driver's license, but you can still get the international driver's license. We didn't know this when we came here, so I didn't have one, and so far we've pretty much been 95% lucky. We got stopped once in Chiang Mai, then you have to go to the police station, and there's a bunch of tourists there who are just paying the fine. It was 500 baht, which was like £7.
We have met people as well who don't even have a driver's license at all at home, but you can literally just go into any shop on the side of the road and hire a motorbike for a day. They really don't care as long as they're getting your money money and you're keeping their property safe. With that being said, I would just say be super careful driving them, because it means that not everyone on the road has got a license to drive it, so you never really know who you're driving next to or near, so just be super careful if you're driving them. But they are very, very readily available if you wanted to drive one pretty much anywhere.
In addition to renting them as well, just make sure every time you rent one, you take pictures all around the bike, just because I have heard horror stories of people taking them back and there's already been scratches on them, and then they're getting charged for that, and you usually leave either money or passport as a deposit, so you don't really want to be stuck in that situation.
And my last general note that I've got written down at the moment is plastic bags. You will be given plastic bags everywhere, in every shop. When you get on the buses and you have to take your shoes off, they give you a plastic bag to put them in. Unfortunately, Asia is really behind with the whole no plastic thing. They basically give you plastic everywhere you go, which is such a shame. But what I would say is reuse and recycle these plastic bags to the best of your ability. We have basically ended up using these plastic bags for things like our laundry. We've also used it just as a general day-to-day travel bag. If we're packing up and going and we've got too much stuff to shove in our big bags, we just shove any loose items in the plastic bag and take it with us. They're also really good for things spilling in your bags. If you are taking your bags on an aeroplane and you think it's going to pop and ruin your bag, definitely you can use it over things like shampoos and body lotion. Also with wet clothes, if you are going to somewhere like a water park or you're just drenched from the rain, you can put your wet clothes in a plastic bag and then put them in your bag without getting everything else wet. And also they're really good to have on you if you are walking in the rain. Normally big bags have got rain covers on them, but your little backpacks won't, so you can always put your little backpack and cover it with a plastic bag to just keep it a little bit more rainproof as well. Unfortunately, it's not great that plastic is everywhere out here, but if you are getting given a plastic bag, hold on to them because they really do come in handy in a lot of situations. Okay, moving away from general notes and moving on to my packing notes. I'm just going to quickly run through this one because technically these are my packing notes and not so much Calum's. My first note for packing would definitely be have a tote bag on you. I'm pretty sure I said this in my packing video a couple of months ago before I came out here, but seriously, the tote bag has come in handy in so many situations. Again, it's just really good for travel days. If you don't want to pack everything into your big bag and you've got some loose items, just chuck them into the tote bag and carry them over your shoulder. It's also really good for bathroom runs, like when you're going to the bathroom in a hostel, you can take your clothes with you, get changed, take your toothbrush, take your toothpaste. Just basically putting everything into one bag and taking it to the bathroom with you is so much easier than doing multiple different runs. And also they fold up really small, so they're hardly taking up any space when you aren't using it. My second note, which should technically be my first note because I would say this is the number one thing, is this phone strap. If you can get your hands on a phone case with a phone strap, it has been honestly a lifesaver. It's just so convenient to be walking around day to day with it across your body. Saying that, you do have to be really careful as well because I have heard some stories where people can go around snipping the back of the phone strap so that they can steal your phone. Unfortunately, things like that can happen everywhere, so just be super careful with it. But for the most part, it's been so helpful, specifically when I've been on the back of the motorbike and I've been giving Calum directions to places because I know it's on my body at all times. Also, just things like going to the bathroom. If you want to go to the bathroom and not put your phone down on the dirty floor, you can just hang it around your neck and avoid that altogether. Packing number 3 would be my blow up neck pillow. It has honestly been so great for our long journeys on the buses. Obviously, if you wanted to, you could bring a normal neck pillow, but I've heard so many people out here complaining that it's just such a ball ache to carry around with you all the time because obviously it's quite big and bulky. So if you can get your hands on a blow up neck pillow that you can reduce to a small size to put in your backpack, then definitely do that because it has been so great for those long and uncomfortable journeys. And number 4 that I can think of so far would be some sort of headband or snood or face masks that you can wear when you're on the motorbikes. Calum has been sick a couple of times more than me whilst we've been out here, and I do think that that is due to the fact that he is driving the motorbikes and he is inhaling all of the dust. I think he also mentioned earlier, but in a lot of places, in specifically Vietnam, they do burn things like plastic on the side of the road, so whilst you're going past it, you're inhaling all these toxic fumes, and obviously there's dust everywhere as well, especially in the more dirty rundown parts of the country. So honestly, if you're getting on the motorbike, definitely take with you some form of facial snood that you can just cover your nose and your mouth with to protect your lungs and also just to stop you from getting that little bit more sick. Now for some packing notes that I feel like I don't regret bringing, but if I could go back and repack, maybe I would reconsider these things. Number one would actually be my water bottle. I have found more often than not, this has not been very handy and I've not actually used it as much as I thought I would. As we were saying earlier about the supermarkets, in every supermarket you can buy a big cold bottle of 1 litre water. To be honest, this is what we've been doing most days. They are so cheap in a lot of places, and obviously it's nice to have a really cold, fresh water bottle rather than this one, which does now smell a little bit because I've not been able to properly wash it anywhere as well. Sometimes I have been pouring the water bottles that we've been buying into my bottle, but to be honest, it kind of doesn't really make a difference because you're still wasting that single-use plastic regardless. So what we've been doing, if we can, is keeping the big 1 litre water bottle and then just refilling that whenever we've got the facilities to. We are headed on our Philippines tour in a few days' time though, and I have been told by the leader of the tour group to bring a water bottle with me because apparently in the Philippines there's so much fresh drinking water that you can fill your bottles up with. So I am going to hold on to this for the time being and I hope that it does come more in handy in the Philippines. But so far, to be honest, I haven't used it all that much. And the other thing that I wouldn't necessarily say I regret bringing, because I definitely have worn them, but I've just found them a little bit of a ball ache, is my Converse. I found a way in which they pack into my bag really well, but if I could go back and repack, maybe I would reconsider these. To be fair, I did always think that out of everything, this would be the thing I sort of wear the least, but I have been wearing them in the evenings when I don't want to wear bulky gym trainers or sandals. To be honest, I might even end up leaving them somewhere for somebody else at some point, but at the moment, I have found a way in which they pack into my bag, but yeah, I would reconsider them if I was to repack now. And one thing that I don't have a lot of with me, but I really, really wish I had more of, is gym wear. When people tell you you're gonna be doing a lot of sweaty activities, hikes, walking, even if you're not doing an activity, it's very, very hot and humid out here. And I wish I had a couple more bits of breathable clothes like gym vests, gym shorts. Annoyingly, I have got so many of them at home, but I just didn't really think I was gonna need them as much as I actually do. So definitely make sure you prioritize bringing a couple of gym wear with you. There's honestly nothing worse than lugging around wet cotton clothes, so it's definitely worth having something with you that's a little bit more breathable for those really sweaty days. Callum has also just thought of one thing that he wants to mention, so he's going to mention that now.
Another one is I probably have about maybe 6 cotton t-shirts with me and 4 like loose comfortable shirts. And if I was to pack again, I'd probably bring about 2, maybe 3 cotton shirts and then just all the rest, those loose, baggy, like button-up shirts, because a lot of the time you don't want to be wearing cotton shirts in this heat. You're always going to be sweating. And you can also wear the shirts smart, casual, whatever. So I'd definitely say I'd get more of those shirts, but there's loads out here, so. Yeah,
I was going to say they're really readily available on the market. Some of them are in really disgusting, ugly patterns, but you kind of embrace it when you're out here.
Okay then.
And finally, just to round off this video, I just want to briefly touch on the money that we've roughly spent so far, because I know some people will be really interested in how we're doing with our budget. So before we came out here, we had sort of set ourselves a rough budget of, I think it was like £30 a day, or roughly around £1,000 a month. I don't know if that correlates exactly, but it was somewhere around that sort of ballpark figure. Every day in January and in February, and so far in March, I have been adding up everything we've spent during the day, and I have made a monthly average based on the amount of days in the month as well.
And since being out here as well, we've kind of decided that £30 is quite a lot for a day. You don't really need that much, especially, you know, when you're not always drinking and spending your money on alcohol.
I wouldn't necessarily say that we've actually been budgeting. We haven't actively been trying to not spend this or spend that. We've just kind of been doing our thing, and actually it's worked out way under budget at the moment. So just to give you a rough figure, in January we spent around £570 each, which works out to roughly around £17 or £18 per day each, which I think is really, really good considering we started in Bangkok and that was including expensive visas and tours and things that we were doing. Not every single day does that include the cost of our hotels and hostels though, so I would say if you are going to include things like that as well, then probably add another around £50 to £100 to that figure if we were going to include all the other things that I've like maybe forgotten, such as maybe like the accommodation or some buses I might might have forgot to include, but for the most part, I'm pretty sure that I was doing really well with things like food and everything we were spending in the day pretty much. That is also the figure without the Hajang loop. If we're gonna add the Hajang loop in, it's another roughly around £120, but I wouldn't necessarily say that that was in our budget because we paid for that separately on our card. That was like a leisurely activity we paid for outside of our budget. And then in February, weirdly enough, we actually spent pretty much the exact same. It was £572 as opposed to 574 the month before. Obviously in February there is a few less days than there is in January, so that means that our daily average was slightly up, but it's still less than £20 per day. I think it works out to be £19.75. Again, maybe not including absolutely everything we've paid for, but I've really been quite good with adding up a lot of things. Like Calum said, there is a few times we paid for hostels and stuff online, so that might have slipped through my fingers a little bit, but other than that, I'd say that we've really been doing really well. A lot of people we've spoken to have been really shocked that our budget is around the £600 mark, because a lot of travelers out here can easily do over £1,000 a month. Don't forget as well, me and Calum are not massive drinkers.
We have some good nights, but at the same time, we don't feel like we're going out of our way not to drink. It's just, we're just not big drinkers anyway.
Yeah, of course. I haven't actually added up March so far, and we've still got a few days left to go, but in Cambodia, everything is more expensive, and we did start the month and finish the month in Cambodia, so I know that the figure is probably going to go up a little bit, but I'm pretty confident that it's still not going to be above like £700. If anyone was interested, I can always update you in the comments once the month has finished, but yeah, I think it's going to be somewhere around that figure, if not a little bit more, because Cambodia is more expensive, but we're definitely under budget is the main point I'm trying to make.
That is excluding flights, but that's mainly because we've been spending with our credit card for flights, because we don't really want that figure to be involved in our budget, because then, you know,
it's not really a fair budget, is it?
It's not a fair budget
Yeah.
if you're using flights, because then you're trying to be a lot stricter. So if you can, definitely get a credit card coming out here, only for flights, or maybe something like the Hajang loop, something big like that, because then you don't necessarily need to worry about that huge amount, but obviously only if you can afford it. Don't be stupid.
And that is the end of our 3-month, 2.5-month backpacker update video.
Thank you for watching. Please ring that bell, like, comment. Just let us know you've been here. That'd be nice.
Yeah, obviously make sure to subscribe to the channel as well, which you didn't say. But if you are enjoying the travel vlogs, then please make sure to watch some of our other ones as well. But this video is probably long enough, so we're going to leave this one here. Thank you again for watching if you've made it this far, and we will hopefully see you in the next one. Bye.